We're gonna put the rudder cable guide fair leads in. You'll wanna do this before you have the cables in. I already had them in, so I figured I'd just shoot it and show you how I put them in. They're just 2 halves. Slide 1 half in, slide the other half in, and then this little locking ring goes on the back and it snaps in. The way I do it is basically slide it on, I'll put my thumb on this side, and then just pop it on with a screwdriver. Just like that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and install the rudder cables on here, and we're gonna show you how to find the spot where to punch through the fabric for the cable to feed through. On the rudder cable, I use 1/8 inch cable. I think your kit comes with the 3/32. I go ahead and use 1/8 inch cable. I know of a couple that have broke before on the 3/32, so I just up it. As important as the rudder is on these airplanes, I just up it to the 1/8 inch. That way it's super strong. To find where this punches through, the factory recently just kind of changed, and there used to be another bushing back here. So it was a little bit easier to do this process, but they removed that bushing, and now it's basically the last bushing that the cable runs through is all the way up here. So kind of what you need to do, this is the way I do it. I'm sure there's another way, but basically you what we used to do is drop a plumb bob from that bushing just down to the ground. Well, there was an open panel here and you could do it. So on this one, it's all covered. So what we did is we went inside, dropped it down to where it hit the fabric, made a little dot with a pencil, and then we'll transfer that line down to the floor. We're just gonna go up to one of the forward bushings and just kind of show you how I place this on the bushing to drop it down, and then we'll come back here and transfer all our lines. Basically, the process is, if we're back there on that bushing, all I'm doing is getting this string in the center right here, and then we're letting that go down, and obviously the fabric's kind of slanted here so it doesn't work, but back there, you let it fall straight down and then just let it touch the fabric. Go on the underside and you can see where that point of the plumb bob hits, make a mark, and that's kind of how we transfer the mark to the bottom of the fabric over there. So then what we're gonna do is I just have a little dot here on the bottom where I transferred this line to. So I'm gonna put that string right on this dot, or come right down to the concrete. Get this thing stable. We're gonna end up doing this again too, so basically right here. And then what we're gonna do is come on this rudder horn. We still gotta drill a hole, but we're gonna come off right where this cable's gonna come into it at. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna drop this down. Just make a quick mark, and then what that does, basically we're just gonna put some tape on the floor and then do that again, and then draw a nice Sharpie line. So let's go from this mark kind of over to this one. Let's see. All right, now I'm gonna do it again, basically. I just put tape down so I don't have lines all over my floor all the time. So again, we just get that right on that dot. Make a mark right where that is. And do the same thing back here again. Okay, like that. And then we just connect the dots Okay. So now we have essentially, that's kind of the plane that the cable's on. That's going to run from here straight to the bushing. Now we need to find where this fabric is at in relation to the cable, and basically where those lines intersect is where we'll pop our hole. So what we do now is get a straight edge and we lay it on top of the rudder horn, and then we go to our dot right here, which I just reached in and found where the center of the bushing is, made a dot there on the tape. And then basically you will draw a line on this as well. Kind of got to bend your straight edge. All right, so we got it laid up here on this dot on top of the rudder horn. We're kind of bending it up against the fuselage. We'll transfer a line. All right. Try not to mark on your fabric. Sharpie won't come off. All right, so now we have that line. Now all you do is you take your plumb bob and you basically run it along this line, and wherever it intersects down here, you pop a hole through your fabric. So let's just kind of see where we're at. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be about right in there. So now I'll really hold this on the line, try not to push in and out on the fabric a whole lot. I would say about right there. So what I'm going to do is make a mark. And that should be where we pop a hole in it. And then the cable will pass through the fabric and go to back here. And then as it moves, the cable moves forward and aft. If your hole's in the right spot, it won't start cutting one way or the other. So we're going to build that front end up the rest of the way. We'll pop a hole in it, and then we'll drill this hole, build that end up, and then we'll see how it fits. All right, so we got this cable made. You got the turnbuckle. You got this fork end assembly, and then the regular eyelet. Like I said before, I use 1/8" cable, 3 crimps. You do 1 in the middle, the second crimp's here, third crimp's here, and then cut it, the tag end about 3/4 of an inch, and then I heat shrink it, put a little zip tie on it. So that's that. And then I'll use a AN5 bolt with a castle nut and a cotter pin. I'll put the bolt facing out on this so your foot doesn't catch the cotter pin and kind of undo it. You can use a fiber lock nut on these too. He's just, generally anything that rotates you want a castle nut and a cotter pin on. But, if you keep an eye on it, it's fine with the fiber lock. The reason is if you don't have the windows here and you cover this on the inside, this will actually a lot of the time scrape. The cotter pin will end up scraping the fabric on the inside and can mark it up. So if this is covered with fabric, a lot of times I will use just a AN3-5 alpha with a fiber lock nut. But since we got the windows on this one, I'll go ahead and use a cotter pin. All right. All right, I'm going to put a thin washer on it instead because I can't get the cotter pin through there. All right, let's try it again. Okay, and then as with all the turnbuckles we do, we mark it halfway on the shank, the non-threaded part of the shank. We'll adjust it to there. That way we have our, adjustments both ways, and we'll also put a zip tie in this thing to where the, this fair lead can't cock and turn over on the turnbuckle. Just like that.